The stars had always seemed peaceful to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. They built telescopes and sent radio signals into the darkness. They dreamed of meeting other intelligent beings. They imagined friendly aliens who would share knowledge and technology. They were wrong about the friendly part. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the Global Defense Center, a massive underground facility built beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, hundreds of screens showed images from satellites, space stations, and deep space observatories. The room was filled with military officers and scientists from every nation on Earth. They all stared at the main screen with fear in their eyes. The alien fleet had appeared 3 days ago, just beyond the orbit of Mars. At first, people thought it was a mistake, some kind of sensor error. But the images were clear. Over 2,000 massive warships hung in space like a swarm of metal insects. Each ship was at least 5 kilometers long. The largest one, which scientists called the command vessel, was over 50 kilometers from end to end. "They're not responding to any of our messages," said Dr. James Wright, the head of the first contact team. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. "We've sent greetings in every language. We've sent mathematical sequences. We've sent images of Earth and its people. Nothing. Complete silence." Sarah nodded slowly. She had expected this. 3 days of trying to communicate, and not a single response. The alien ships just sat there, scanning Earth with unknown sensors, studying humanity like scientists study insects before an experiment. "What do we know about their technology?" she asked. A young officer named Lieutenant Park pulled up a new screen. "Their ships use some kind of energy we don't understand. Our best physicists say it might be zero-point energy, or something beyond our current science. Their weapons." He paused and took a deep breath. "Their weapons are devastating. We detected them testing their main guns on an asteroid yesterday. A single shot vaporized a rock the size of Mount Everest." The room went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Earth's military was powerful by human standards. Nuclear weapons, laser satellites, electromagnetic pulse generators, and kinetic bombardment platforms. But against ships that could destroy mountains with one shot, it seemed hopeless. General Viktor Petrov, the Russian commander, slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot just wait here like sheep waiting for slaughter. We must act. We must show these creatures that humanity will fight." "Fight with what?" asked General Maria Santos from Brazil. "Our most powerful nuclear weapons might damage one of their smaller ships. They have over 2,000 vessels. The mathematics are clear. We cannot win a direct battle." Sarah looked at the screen showing the alien fleet. She had spent her entire career preparing for threats, terrorist attacks, rogue nations, natural disasters. But this was different. This was extinction-level threat. If these aliens decided to attack, humanity might not survive. "There is another option," said a quiet voice from the corner of the room. Everyone turned to look at Dr. Elena Vasquez, the director of Project Prometheus. She was a small woman with dark hair and intense eyes. Most people in the room didn't know about her project. It was classified at the highest level, known only to a handful of world leaders. "Project Prometheus is ready," she said simply. General Chen felt a chill run down her spine. She knew about Prometheus. She wished she didn't. It was humanity's last resort, a weapon so terrible that even its creators feared it. The project had been developed in secret for 15 years, hidden in facilities across the globe. It was designed to fight threats that conventional weapons could not defeat. "We can't use Prometheus unless we have no other choice," Sarah said firmly. "The cost is too high. Commander, look at that fleet," Dr. Vasquez replied, pointing at the screen. "Do you really think we have any other choice?" Before anyone could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Red lights flashed on every screen. Officers shouted updates as new information flooded in. "The alien fleet is moving," Lieutenant Park yelled. "They've entered a direct course toward Earth. Estimated arrival, 18 hours. Sarah felt her heart pound in her chest. 3 days of silence, and now this. The aliens had finished studying humanity. They had made their decision, and that decision was clearly not peaceful. "All defense platforms to maximum alert," she ordered. "Contact every nation. Tell them to prepare their military forces, and get me the president, the prime minister, and every world leader. Now." As officers rushed to follow her commands, Sarah looked once more at the approaching fleet. 2,000 warships, carrying unknown weapons and unknown soldiers, were coming to Earth. Humanity had dreamed of meeting aliens for centuries. Now that dream had become a nightmare. But humanity would not go quietly. Whatever these creatures wanted, they would find that the people of Earth were not easy prey. Every man, woman, and child would fight. Every weapon would be used. Every sacrifice would be made. Sarah turned to Dr. Vasquez. Begin preparations for Project Prometheus. I pray we won't need it. But if we do, I want it ready. Dr. Vasquez nodded and left the room. As she walked away, Sarah noticed something strange in the scientist's eyes. Was it fear? Or was it something else? Something that looked almost like anticipation? The countdown to humanity's greatest battle had begun. In 18 hours, Earth would face the full might of an alien invasion. And nothing would ever be the same again. The stars, once symbols of hope and wonder, now carried death toward humanity's home. But in bunkers and military bases around the world, soldiers prepared to fight. In laboratories, scientists worked desperately on any advantage they could find. And in the hearts of billions of people, a fierce determination grew. They would not surrender. They would not run. They would face this enemy with everything they had. Even if everything they had was not enough, the alien fleet crossed the moon's orbit at exactly 0600 hours Universal Time. By then, every human on Earth knew what was coming. Television stations around the world showed live images of the approaching ships. Churches, temples, and mosques were filled with people praying. Families gathered together, holding each other close. Some people cried, some people raged, but most simply waited, watching the sky with a mixture of terror and strange calm. Commander Sarah Chen had not slept in 36 hours. She stood in the Global Defense Center, surrounded by the combined military leadership of humanity. Every nation had put aside its differences. Old enemies stood side by side. There were no more borders now. There was only Earth, and the things that wanted to destroy it. The first wave of defense satellites is in position, reported Admiral Jackson from the United States Navy. We have 300 orbital platforms armed with nuclear missiles and high-powered lasers. They won't stop the fleet, but they might slow it down. Sarah nodded. The defense satellites were just the first layer. Humanity had been preparing for threats from space for decades. Not aliens specifically, but asteroids, solar flares, and other cosmic dangers. Those preparations would now be tested against a much more terrible enemy. What about the ground-based defenses? She asked. General Petrov pulled up a map of Earth showing thousands of red dots scattered across every continent. All major cities have activated their shield generators. We have missile batteries on every coastline and mountain range. Our electromagnetic pulse weapons are charged and ready. And every nuclear submarine in the world is positioned for launch. It sounded impressive. It sounded powerful. But Sarah knew the truth. All these weapons combined might destroy a few hundred alien ships at most. The enemy had over 2,000. The mathematics of death were simple and cruel. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Park suddenly. His voice was shaking. "It's from the alien fleet. They're finally communicating." The main screen flickered and changed. Instead of the fleet, it now showed a face. Or something like a face. The alien had gray skin stretched tight over a skull that was too long and too narrow. Its eyes were large and completely black, like pools of dark water. It had no visible mouth, but somehow, words came from it. The voice was cold and mechanical, translated by unknown technology into perfect English. "Creatures of the third planet," the alien said. "We are the Valorians. We have traveled across the galaxy for 10,000 years, consuming worlds and harvesting resources. Your planet has been evaluated. Your species has been studied. You are primitive. You are weak. You are suitable only for extraction." The alien paused. Behind it, Sarah could see the interior of the command vessel. Strange machines pulsed with blue light. Other aliens moved in the background, working at stations she could not understand. "Your defenses are known to us," the Valorian continued. "Your weapons are toys. Your ships are garbage. You cannot resist us. In 4 hours, we will begin the extraction process. Your oceans will be drained. Your atmosphere will be collected. Your biological resources will be harvested. Your species will cease to exist. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. Prepare for termination. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one in the defense center spoke. The aliens' words hung in the air like poison. Extraction, harvesting, termination. These creatures did not want to conquer Earth. They wanted to strip it bare and leave nothing behind. Then General Santos broke the silence. So they think we're primitive? They think we're weak? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let's show them what primitive creatures can do when they're fighting for survival. Sarah felt something change in the room. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Anger, determination, defiance. These were the descendants of people who had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They had built civilization from nothing. They had split the atom and reached the moon. They would not simply lie down and die. All defense platforms, prepare to engage, Sarah commanded. The moment they enter weapon range, we hit them with everything we have. Make every shot count. The next 4 hours passed like a fever dream. Soldiers checked their weapons one last time. Pilots climbed into fighter jets that might not survive their first battle. Scientists made final adjustments to defense systems. Around the world, ordinary people did extraordinary things. Strangers helped strangers. Parents told children they loved them. Old grudges were forgotten. Then the Valorian fleet reached attack range, and the sky caught fire. Earth's orbital platforms launched thousands of nuclear missiles simultaneously. Bright streaks of light crossed the darkness of space, racing toward the alien ships. At the same time, massive laser arrays on the moon's surface began firing, sending beams of concentrated energy at the enemy vessels. For a brief, glorious moment, it seemed like humanity's weapons were working. Explosions bloomed across the alien formation. Several smaller ships broke apart, their wreckage spinning into the void. The people watching from Earth cheered. They had hurt the enemy. They had drawn first blood. But the celebration was short-lived. The Valorian fleet responded with devastating precision. Green beams of energy swept through space, destroying defense satellites like a hand swatting flies. In seconds, half of Earth's orbital platforms were gone. The lunar laser arrays were targeted next. The entire moon base, home to 3,000 scientists and soldiers, vanished in a flash of light. Sarah watched the destruction with horror. The aliens had barely slowed down. Their weapons were faster, more powerful, and more accurate than anything humanity possessed. The first wave of defense had failed. Ground batteries, open fire, she ordered. Everything we have. Now. From every continent, missiles rose into the sky. Thousands of warheads, carrying the combined nuclear arsenals of every nation, streaked upward toward the alien fleet. Electromagnetic pulse weapons activated, sending invisible waves of energy into space. Everything humanity had built over a century of technological progress was unleashed in a single desperate attack, and the Valorians kept coming. Their shields absorbed nuclear explosions like water-absorbing drops of rain. Their ships pushed through the electromagnetic pulses without even slowing. They were less than 2 hours from Earth, and nothing seemed capable of stopping them. In the defense center, officers stared at their screens in disbelief. They had known the odds were bad. They had known this might happen. But seeing it, watching humanity's greatest weapons fail completely, was something else entirely. "Commander," Dr. Vasquez said softly, appearing at Sarah's side. "Project Prometheus is ready. The activation codes are waiting for your authorization." Sarah closed her eyes. She thought of her family, her friends, everyone she had ever known. She thought of the billions of people counting on her to save them. She thought of the terrible price that Prometheus would demand. Then she opened her eyes and made the hardest decision of her life. "Activate Project Prometheus," she said. "May God forgive us for what we're about to do." Project Prometheus was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It was not a bomb or a missile or a laser. It was something far more dangerous. It was the result of 15 years of secret research into the fundamental forces of the universe, and it required a sacrifice that no sane civilization should ever be willing to make. Dr. Elena Vasquez led Commander Chen through a hidden tunnel deep beneath the Alps. They walked in silence, passing through security checkpoints that required DNA scans, retinal identification, and codes known only to 12 people on Earth. With each step, they went deeper underground, until the weight of the mountain above them felt like the weight of the entire world. Finally, they reached the Prometheus chamber. It was a vast circular room, half a kilometer across. In the center stood a device that looked almost like a sculpture. Thousands of crystalline pillars surrounded a sphere of pure darkness. The sphere was not black in the normal sense. It was an absence of light, a hole in reality itself. Looking at it made Sarah feel dizzy, as if her mind could not process what her eyes were seeing. "What is that thing?" she whispered. Dr. Vasquez's voice was calm but heavy with emotion. "We call it the seed. 15 years ago, our physicists discovered something unexpected while studying quantum mechanics. They found a way to create a temporary rupture in space-time, a controlled tear in the fabric of reality itself." Sarah stared at the dark sphere. "A rupture? You mean like a black hole?" "Worse. A black hole has mass and gravity. It follows physical laws. This is different. This is a gateway to something beyond our understanding. When activated, it will expand rapidly, consuming everything in its path for exactly 47 seconds. During those 47 seconds, it will destroy anything within a radius of approximately 200,000 kilometers. The number hit Sarah like a physical blow. 200,000 kilometers. The moon was about 380,000 kilometers from Earth. The alien fleet was currently between Earth and the moon. Well within that range. "It will destroy the entire fleet," she said slowly. "But what happens after 47 seconds? Dr. Vasquez looked away. "The seed will collapse. The rupture will close. Space-time will heal itself. But there will be consequences. Side effects that we cannot fully predict." "What kind of side effects?" "The rupture doesn't just destroy matter. It disrupts the fundamental forces of physics in ways we don't completely understand. Our models suggest that when it collapses, it will release a wave of altered energy across the entire solar system. This wave will affect everything it touches." Sarah felt cold despite the warm air in the chamber. "Affect how?" "We don't know exactly. Some of our scientists believe it will simply pass through matter without causing harm. Others believe it could alter atomic structures, change the behavior of electrons, or even affect biological processes." Dr. Vasquez paused. "There is a possibility, maybe 20% according to our calculations, that the wave could cause mass extinction on Earth." 20%? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "You're telling me there's a 1 in 5 chance that this weapon will kill everyone on the planet?" "Yes. But there is a 100% chance that the Valorians will kill everyone if we don't use it. Those are our options, Commander. Certain death, or possible death. The choice is yours." Above them, the battle continued. Reports came in through Sarah's earpiece, each one worse than the last. The alien fleet had reached low Earth orbit. Their smaller ships were beginning to descend toward the surface. In Beijing, millions of people were running through the streets as alien vessels hovered overhead. In New York, the Statue of Liberty was burning. In Mumbai, strange machines were already drilling into the ground, beginning the extraction process the Valorians had promised. Humanity was out of time. Sarah thought about her daughter, Anna, who was 7 years old and hiding in a shelter somewhere in Switzerland. She thought about the promise she had made to always protect her. She thought about all the parents around the world making the same desperate wish for their children. If she activated Prometheus, there was a chance everyone would die. But if she didn't activate it, everyone would definitely die. The Valorians had made that clear. They weren't here to negotiate or enslave. They were here to strip the planet bare and move on to their next target. "Do it," she said. "Activate the seed." Dr. Vasquez nodded and walked to a control panel near the crystalline pillars. She entered a long sequence of codes, her fingers moving with the precision of someone who had practiced this moment many times. Lights began to pulse throughout the chamber. The dark sphere at the center started to grow. "The expansion will begin in 60 seconds, Dr. Vasquez announced. "The rupture will reach maximum size in approximately 3 minutes. After that, we have 47 seconds of total destruction, followed by collapse and wave release." Sarah watched the sphere grow. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like watching a storm approach across an open plain. She activated her communication device to address the entire world. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Global Defense Force. What I am about to tell you will be difficult to hear. We have activated a weapon called Project Prometheus. It will destroy the alien fleet completely, but it carries significant risk. In approximately 5 minutes, a wave of unknown energy will pass through our planet. We do not know exactly what it will do. We may survive without any effects, or we may not survive at all." She paused, her voice catching in her throat. I made this decision because the alternative was extinction. The Valorians came here to destroy us completely. They gave us no choice but to fight with everything we have. I know this is not the outcome anyone wanted. I know this is frightening. But please, hold your families close. Tell the people you love how much they mean to you. And hope that humanity's luck holds one more time. Around the world, people heard her words. Some screamed in fear. Some fell to their knees in prayer. Some simply held each other and waited, in shelters and bunkers, in homes and hospitals, in every corner of the planet. Humanity faced its final minutes together. The seed continued to expand. The dark sphere was now 50 meters across and growing faster. The crystalline pillars around it began to crack from the strain. Rupture reaching critical expansion. Dr. Vasquez reported. Alien fleet is attempting to retreat, but they're too slow. They're being pulled in. Sarah watched the screens showing the battle in space. The Valorian ships, so powerful and unstoppable just minutes ago, were now being dragged toward the growing darkness, like leaves in a whirlpool. Their engines fired at maximum power, but it wasn't enough. Nothing could escape the pull of the rupture. Fleet Admiral's command vessel is breaking apart, Lieutenant Park shouted from the defense center. Multiple alien ships destroyed. They're trying to communicate, but the rupture is interfering with all signals. For the first time in days, Sarah allowed herself to feel hope. The weapon was working. The aliens were dying. Earth might actually survive this day, but the price was still waiting to be paid. And in 47 seconds, humanity would learn whether its gamble had saved the world or destroyed it. The dark sphere reached its maximum size, swallowing the last of the Valorian fleet. Then it collapsed, and the wave began. The wave was invisible to human eyes. It traveled at the speed of light, expanding outward from the point where the seed had collapsed. In the void of space, there was nothing to show its passage except the strange flickering of distant stars. But everyone on Earth felt it when it arrived. Commander Sarah Chen was still standing in the Prometheus chamber when the wave passed through the planet. It felt like nothing she had ever experienced. One moment she was normal, the next, every cell in her body seemed to vibrate at a frequency that didn't belong to this universe. Her vision went white, her thoughts scattered like leaves in a hurricane. She felt herself falling into an endless void. Then it was over. Sarah opened her eyes. She was lying on the floor of the chamber. Dr. Vasquez was beside her, slowly pushing herself up to a sitting position. The crystalline pillars that had surrounded the seed were all shattered, their fragments scattered across the floor like broken glass. "Are we dead?" Sarah asked. Her voice sounded strange, distant, as if coming from very far away. "I don't think so," Dr. Vasquez replied. She looked at her hands, turning them over as if checking that they were still real. "I feel different, but I'm alive." Different. That was the right word. Sarah felt it too. Something had changed inside her. Something fundamental that she couldn't quite identify. It was like waking up from a dream and finding that the world had shifted slightly while she slept. "Commander Chen, do you copy?" Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Commander, please respond." "I'm here," Sarah said, struggling to her feet. "What's our status?" "The alien fleet is completely destroyed. Every single ship. There's nothing left but debris spreading across Earth orbit. We won. Commander, we actually won." Sarah should have felt joy. She should have felt relief. But the feeling of wrongness wouldn't leave her. Something was different. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. "What about the wave?" she asked. "What are the reports from around the world?" There was a pause. When Lieutenant Park spoke again, his voice was quieter, uncertain. "Reports are still coming in. Most people seem to be okay. They felt the wave, but they're alive. However what? Some people are reporting strange symptoms, changes in perception, unusual physical sensations, and some people..." He stopped. "Tell me, some people aren't waking up. They're not dead." "Exactly. Their hearts are beating. They're breathing. But they won't wake up." Initial estimates suggest about 2% of the population worldwide. That's roughly 160 million people, Commander. Sarah closed her eyes. 160 million people, trapped in some kind of coma or sleep from which they might never wake. The price of victory, the cost of survival. "There's more," Lieutenant Park continued. Animals are affected too. About 5% of all animal life seems to be in the same state. Birds fell from the sky in the middle of flight. Dogs and cats collapsed in their homes. Fish floated to the surface of oceans and lakes. And plants. Plants? In some regions, vegetation is changing, growing differently. Trees are producing flowers that don't match their species. Crops are mutating into forms we've never seen. It's like the wave rewrote the rules of biology in random places. Sarah walked slowly out of the Prometheus chamber, Dr. Vasquez following silently behind her. They made their way back through the tunnels toward the surface. With each step, Sarah felt the weight of what she had done pressing down on her. She had saved humanity. She had destroyed the alien fleet. But at what cost? When they finally emerged from the mountain, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, beautiful and peaceful. But Sarah noticed something strange. The colors were slightly wrong. The orange was too bright, almost glowing. The purple had hints of colors she couldn't name, colors that shouldn't exist. The wave affected the atmosphere, Dr. Vasquez said quietly, following her gaze. Light is refracting differently now. It may return to normal over time, or it may not. Across the world, similar scenes were unfolding. In Tokyo, people emerged from shelters to find that the familiar skyline was still standing. In Paris, crowds gathered beneath the Eiffel Tower, crying and embracing. In New York, survivors walked through streets littered with alien debris that had fallen from orbit. The invasion was over. Humanity had survived, but everywhere, people noticed the changes, the strange colors in the sky, the plants that moved in ways they shouldn't, the 2% of friends and family members who wouldn't wake up no matter what anyone tried. The animals that had collapsed in mid-stride. Sarah returned to the Global Defense Center, where the atmosphere was a mix of celebration and grief. Officers cheered when she entered, but the cheers were hollow, uncertain. They had won the greatest battle in human history. They had faced extinction and fought their way through. But victory had left scars that might never heal. What do we do now? General Petrov asked. He looked older than he had 3 days ago, as if the weight of events had aged him decades in hours. We survive, Sarah replied. We study the effects of the wave. We try to help those who were affected. We rebuild what was destroyed. And we prepare. Prepare for what? The Valorians said they had been traveling across the galaxy for 10,000 years, consuming worlds. That means they're not the only ones out there. Other species exist. Some might be friendly. Some might be worse than the Valorians. We got lucky today. We had a weapon that worked. Next time, we might not be so fortunate. She turned to address the entire room. What happened today will change everything. Humanity will never be the same. We have learned that we are not alone in the universe, and that the universe is more dangerous than we ever imagined. But we have also learned something about ourselves. We learned that when we stand together, when we fight as one species, we can defeat any enemy. She paused, her eyes moving across the faces of officers from every nation on Earth. The price we paid today was terrifying. 160 million people in comas, unknown changes to our environment and biology, a sky that no longer looks quite right. These things will haunt us. They should haunt us. We must never forget what we sacrificed to survive. Outside, night was falling. But the stars looked different now. They flickered with colors that shouldn't exist. A constant reminder that the rules of reality had been bent and might never fully straighten. Humanity had won its first interstellar war. But the victory felt less like triumph and more like awakening from one nightmare into another. And somewhere, in the quiet darkness of hospital rooms and family homes around the world, 160 million people slept without dreaming. The permanent casualties of Earth's desperate defense. The battle was over. The long night was just beginning. 1 year had passed since the Valorian invasion. The world had changed in ways both visible and invisible, and humanity was still learning to live with the consequences of its survival. Commander Sarah Chen stood on a hill overlooking what used to be called Memorial Valley. Before the invasion, it had been farmland. Now it was a vast garden of strange and beautiful plants that had never existed before the wave passed through. Trees with silver leaves grew beside flowers that glowed faintly in the darkness. Grass that changed color with the weather covered the ground like a living carpet. Scientists called these areas transition zones. There were thousands of them scattered across the planet, places where the wave had permanently altered the rules of biology. Some zones were dangerous, filled with aggressive plants or unstable chemical reactions. Others, like Memorial Valley, were peaceful, almost magical. Humanity was learning to adapt to both. "The latest reports are in," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, walking up to stand beside Sarah. The scientist had changed in the past year. Her hair had turned completely white, a common effect among people who had been closest to the seed when it activated. "The sleepers are showing new brain activity." Sarah turned to her sharply. "New activity? What does that mean? We don't fully understand yet. But it seems like the wave didn't just put them to sleep. It changed them somehow, rewired their neural pathways. Some researchers believe they're experiencing something we can't comprehend, a different state of consciousness, perhaps connected to whatever lies beyond the rupture we created." The sleepers. That was what people called the 160 million humans who had fallen into comas during the wave. After a year, not a single one had awakened. They didn't age, they didn't deteriorate. They simply existed in a state between life and death, dreaming dreams that no one could reach. Sarah thought about her daughter, Anna. She had been one of the lucky ones, unaffected by the wave. But her best friend, a little girl named Maya, had become a sleeper. Anna visited Maya's hospital room every week, reading stories and holding her hand, waiting for a friend who might never return. "There's something else, Doctor," Vasquez said. "The deep space probes we launched last month have detected signals, alien signals, coming from multiple directions. The destruction of the Valorian fleet sent a message across the galaxy. Other species know what happened here. They know humanity fought back and won. Is that good or bad? Both, probably. Some species might see us as potential allies, others might see us as a threat to be eliminated, and some might come seeking to understand the weapon we used. The rupture left traces that can be detected from light years away. We have essentially announced our presence to the universe in the most dramatic way possible." Sarah looked up at the night sky. The stars still flickered with impossible colors, a permanent reminder of what the wave had done to the laws of physics in their solar system. Astronomers had learned to work with the new patterns, but tourists still came from around the world to see the strange and beautiful night sky that Earth now possessed. "We need to be ready," she said, "not just for defense, but for contact. The next visitors might not be invaders. They might be scientists, explorers, refugees. We need to be prepared for every possibility." In the year since the invasion, humanity had indeed been preparing. The nations of Earth had formed a permanent unified government, the Global Alliance, to coordinate defense and exploration efforts. New space stations were being built using technology recovered from Valorian wreckage. The first interstellar spacecraft, named the Hope, was under construction in orbit, and Project Prometheus had been sealed and hidden, its secrets buried deep beneath multiple continents, a weapon of last resort that everyone prayed would never be needed again. But the changes weren't just political and technological, they were personal. Millions of people had experienced the wave and survived, but many reported lasting effects. Some had gained strange abilities. They could see patterns in numbers that others couldn't. They could sense electromagnetic fields. They could dream about events before they happened. Scientists called these people wave-touched, and their numbers grew every month as more abilities manifested. Sarah herself had not been affected in any obvious way. But sometimes, late at night, she felt something stirring at the edge of her consciousness, a presence, or perhaps a memory, of the 47 seconds when the rupture had torn through reality. It felt like standing at the edge of an infinite ocean, knowing that something vast and unknowable was watching from the depths. "Do you regret it?" Dr. Vasquez asked softly. "Activating the seed?" Sarah considered the question carefully. She had asked herself the same thing every day for the past year. 160 million sleepers, thousands of transition zones, a sky that would never look the same. The wave touched with their strange new abilities, all because of a decision she had made in a moment of desperation. "I made the only choice I could," she finally said. "The Valorians gave us no alternative. They came to destroy us completely, to strip our planet bare and leave nothing behind. If I hadn't activated Prometheus, every single human being would be dead, every animal, every plant. Earth would be a lifeless rock." She paused, watching a silver-leafed tree sway in the gentle wind. "The price was terrible. It will always be terrible. But we survived. We have a chance to build something new, something better." The sleepers might wake up someday. The transition zones might stabilize. The wave-touched might learn to control their abilities. There is hope, Elena. That's what I hold on to. As long as there is hope, the sacrifice was not meaningless. Dr. Vasquez nodded slowly. I've been studying the data from the rupture. The 47 seconds when reality was torn open. We recorded everything we could, and I've spent the past year analyzing it. Do you want to know what I found? Tell me. The rupture didn't just destroy matter. It connected us to something else. Another dimension, another reality, another form of existence. For 47 seconds, humanity touched the infinite, and I believe that connection left a mark on all of us. The sleepers, the wave-touched, even the transition zones, they're all reflections of that moment of contact. Sarah stared at her. What are you saying? I'm saying that we didn't just survive the invasion. We evolved. Humanity took a step forward that might take other species millions of years to achieve naturally. We touched something beyond normal reality, and it changed us at the most fundamental level. The price was high, but the potential is beyond anything we can currently imagine. Above them, the strange stars flickered and danced. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were receiving the news of the Valorian fleet's destruction. Some were probably afraid. Some were probably curious. Some might already be planning to make contact with the species that had accomplished the impossible. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. They had paid a terrible price and emerged transformed. They stood at the beginning of a new era, uncertain but unbroken, scarred but stronger. Sarah Chen, commander of Earth's defense forces, looked at the changed sky and felt something she hadn't felt since before the invasion. Not just hope, but anticipation. The universe had tried to destroy humanity. Instead, it had awakened something inside them that had been sleeping for millennia. The stars were waiting, and this time, humanity would meet them not as prey, but as equals. The first chapter of Earth's cosmic history had ended in blood and sacrifice. The next chapter was about to begin, and humanity would write it themselves.